All right, I want to thank Coach Bandstra for having me on here. We're talking a little bit of quarters coverage tonight, particularly how to create up to a 9 or even 10 man front, and how we talk about that and really get involved with our entire defense in terms of stopping the run. So, first and foremost, just a quick intro for myself. See a picture of myself and my wife and our two kids there, our twins. They're toddlers now, running around and keeping us busy. So. Kind of my background right now, I'm the defensive coordinator at Portage Central High School in the state of Michigan. I've been doing that for the past 2 seasons full time. Before I got to Portage Central, 2014 was my first year there. I was at White Pigeon, small school down kind of on the border of Indiana, Southwest Michigan, 2012 to 13. Before that, and I grew up and played and coached in Hazlitt High School, which is about 10 minutes from East Lansing and Michigan State. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today kind of goes back to that point in time when Mark D'Antonio's staff was first getting established at Michigan State. A lot of the staff's sons were in our district at Hazlitt and playing for us, and we were able to develop that relationship and being there for spring ball and practices and meetings and all sorts of things. So I was not a defensive guy when I first started, truthfully. I mean, the only expertise I had as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old coach starting out was, as an offensive lineman running the full house wing T that you see in the state of Michigan. So my expansion of my football knowledge really started with investing all that time at Michigan State and, being local and all that stuff. So, Pat Narduzzi's kid was in our program. He was one of the coaches that had a kid, and he was very gracious to us and answered a lot of questions. And really, I started to learn that system that they were running at that level, Power 5 level, and they were successful and competing for championships and all that. It was really a system that could get adapted to high school ball. So a lot of that, you'll see some of those strong influences in what we talk about here. So we're talking about creating a 9-man front with cover 4. Kind of an agenda, what we're going to get through today. We're just quick intro to our defense and philosophy. We're going to talk about our core values, which I think are important regardless of your scheme. I'm going to talk to you about our positional ABCs. Those are just the base things that we start off with right away with all of our kids from 7th grade on up. General overview of kind of what we're looking like schematic wise, although we'll talk about how all this stuff is easily transitioned regardless of what front you prefer to be in. So we'll talk about why cover 4. What are some of the things that we believe give us the advantage with trying to do what we want to do? Why do we press our corners? Why is that advantageous for us? We'll talk run fit rules, kind of general spill and force, alignment and assignment. I'm going to show you just some diagrams, full film, looks at multiple formations and just the ease of transitions with how we get our guys lined up and how that leverages the run fits. Got some game film for you. I know on Zoom, maybe a little bit choppy, but we'll be able to pause it and note it up and let you see some things live and kind of go from there. And at the end, we'll talk about RPOs and modern football and leveraging those and kind of building your system around how you want to defend what you're going to be seeing, and then pitching some of your changes at the end. We'll talk about kind of the big picture stuff. So here we roll. Mustang football, just kind of a background with where we're at in Portage Central. That's where we are right there. Portage, just outside of Kalamazoo, so Southwest Michigan. We're an enrollment of about 1,400 kids. That puts us in Division II, which is the second highest division in the state of Michigan. Our head coach is Mick Enders, great head coach to work for. He played under our old head coach, Bob Knight, who was a Hall of Famer in the state, 250-plus wins. A lot of the guys on staff at Portage Central are guys who have either played there or have been there for forever. I'm actually kind of one of the only guys who's not a PC guy per se, but been here going on 7 years now, so we're part of the community and really enjoy it. So a couple things about our program. We've been, one of our things that we're pretty proud of is that last year, 2019, was our 8th straight playoff appearance. And we've made 13 of the last 14, which puts us at, in the last 8 years during that time, 62-22, so batting about 75%. We've been fortunate to win our league there, those 5 of the past 7 years. So very proud program, lots of community support, a lot of guys that are bought and invested. So just trying to continue our rise and work our way up to a level that our community and our school deserves, and that we're capable of. So talk a little bit about our philosophy going forward. So some of the core values. This is something that we started a couple of years ago, kind of when I took over as defensive coordinator. Wanted to make these things that were visible for us and things that were celebrated and kind of a big deal. So those are the three things right there that we talk about with our kids. You know, our vision. What would someone who watches our film or watches us play think about us when we were done? So first of all is effort. Everybody talks about that and just getting hats the ball. We, in terms of effort, we stat out how many guys that we have at the football at the time of the whistle. We're looking for something we call a 9-5-9 rule, 9 hats within 5 yards of the ball 90% of the time. So that's something that we kind of put a measuring stick on, and we'll talk to our kids about that. And then in toughness, you know, another word that gets tossed around a lot. It's not necessarily physical toughness for us. It's mental, being able to, you know, withstand giving up maybe, you know, something that we obviously didn't want to give up as far as a big play and whatnot, being able to rebound and play the next play. So when we talk about toughness, I mean, we're big on, you know, the mental aspect of things. So it's 4-to-1 mental to physical. Fundamentals, we want people to see that we play with bent knees, play with flat back, square shoulders, all that good stuff that puts us in a position to perform in terms of physics the way that we need to perform. So fundamentally, we're looking to be very sound. And then how does that all translate to what we're actually trying to do in terms of a mission? So the first thing we talk about with our program, and, you know, while we're talking about it today, we're trying to stop the run. And every defensive coordinator will sit here and tell you the exact same thing. We're going to stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. Like, okay, you know, what does that mean? Well, you'll see today that our system is maybe a little bit overly aggressive towards making that happen. We talk about, you know, single high systems, cover 1, cover 3, things of that nature, and getting in an 8-man front. Well, you know, our belief is that quarters gives us a 9-man front. So when we talk about stopping the run, we're trying to put ourselves in position to get all the bodies we need to defend what the offense presents and try to make them one-dimensional. We feel like, especially high school football, if you can get teams a little bit behind the sticks in terms of stopping the run, then you've given yourself an advantage, more so at our level than, you know, the college or NFL levels. You know, most teams are running teams in high school. So trying to stop the run, we're not just trying to give that lip service. We make that a big point of pride for us, and, you know, we stat out what we want to be at, and, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, our kids know from our defensive backs all the way down that stopping the run is what we're trying to do. Number 2, regaining possession. Pretty simple there. Either creating a takeaway, which we use that terminology. We don't talk about turnover, we talk about takeaways. You know, most turnovers, if you go back and stat it out, I think, you know, the NFL put something out this past year that something close to 70% of all fumbles were created by intent, not by, you know, just not necessarily someone getting hit and giving up the ball and whatnot, but actually going after a rip or punch or whatever it is. So we talk about getting takeaways, or at the very least making the offense punt the football. And the last one, we talk about limiting big plays. So, you know, things happen. Obviously, you're gonna bust every now and then. It's just part of the game, and other guys are well coached too and got good players. But limiting big plays, you know, we want to make sure that the offense is having to work for what they do. So that comes down to communication and getting lined up and knowing what our key is and what the call is, and pulling the trigger, getting ready to roll. So those are the core values we talk about before we even get into scheme. Here's our ABCs. We put this out. We break it down for just the 3 position groups. We don't do it for inside, you know, interior defensive line or ends or inside backers, outside backers, safeties, corners. No, we put it in terms of those 3 levels of the defense, and kind of the things that we need to be able to do for a player to be a successful contributor to our defense. So I'm not going to go through and talk about all these one by one, but this is up in our locker room. It's posted. Our kids see it. A lot of them hold it into or post it in their lockers and whatnot. Have it as their phone backgrounds, things of that nature. Just constantly reinforcing to our kids that this is what we're looking for to do to be a successful member of the Mustang defense. Those are our positional ABCs. And then what we look like, you know, you don't have to be a 4-3 to run the system, but you know, this will be our first year truly being a 4-down. We've been a 3-down. Just personnel wise, and, you know, making that switch this year, it's just is what it is as far as putting our kids in the best position to be successful. But we've been a press 4 team since 2016. Before I became the full-time DC, we did have that that was our base system, split field coverages, and trying to be as multiple as we can be while also keeping it simple for our kids. So the split field system, if you install 3 different types of checks or 3 different ways to play quarters, really you've got 9 different positions or different ways to present a full field coverage to an offense. So a little bit of simplicity and multiplicity with that split field stuff that you hear guys talk about when they're running quarters. We do the same. So 9-man front, we're spill and kill defense. So we'll talk about what our spill technique looks like. We call it the dent technique. Really just philosophically, we're trying to push the ball out to the perimeter and make sure that the offense is moving east to west as much as possible. If we're going north-south, that's the fastest path to first down marker and the goal line. So we put a big emphasis, obviously, on spilling and making sure that we understand when we are a spill player, when we're a force player, things of that nature. That's what we're going to dive into today and talk about how we coach that up. Overall, though, I think our defense it's really fun for us to coach in. I feel like it takes, puts the pressure on us to make sure that we're teaching it correctly and allowing our kids to play fast. But I think our kids really enjoy playing defense in our system. They get to do a lot of multiple things. We'll kind of talk about those position groups and some of their characteristics as we go forward. But versus the run, so why cover 4? Why do we think that this is something that gives us an advantage in our league and where we play? First of all, easy adjustments. It gets us lined up quickly to any formation of football, just with some really simple checks. Our strength system is about as easy as can be, either to the tight end or to the field. Getting lined up quick and getting locked in and getting ready to go. It's, say this to sound against every offensive system and personnel group. And does that mean it's the best defense and coverage ever created? Absolutely not. But we do feel like we can line up and play, without we're not changing defense every week. We don't sit down in our meetings and go, hey, what front are we going to run this week? Or, hey, what coverage are we going to run this week? No, it's our system. It's what we do. Whether it's full house wing T or whether it's 10 personnel spread, empty, chucking it around, we're going to play quarters. We're going to play on our 4-3 over front and play ball. It's what our kids know how to do. So we do have the ability to get between 3 and 4 down fronts. As I said, we've been a 3-down team in the past, and that's an easy transition. I think the ability to present different things at times as a defense at the high school level, whatever front you show, you can think of that offense, the opposing offense has to rep that in practice. That takes time. So the easy transition between 3 and 4 down fronts and not changing anything whatsoever in our coverage system behind it, again, allows us to be pretty multiple of what we're trying to do. We got divorced front and coverage. You've probably heard that term before, but divorced front and coverage. We can run different fronts, the same coverage. Biggest thing for me as the linebackers coach and kind of focusing on that position group when I first learned this defense, I really love the ability for the linebackers to run and not have to worry about cutback, because the involvement of the safeties in the cover 4 system, it allows for, I use the word fluid front. We'll talk a little bit about gaps and how we teach that up, but it's not black and white for us. We run to the football. That's ultimately what it comes down to as far as playing any type of defense is how well do your kids run to the football. And especially at that second level with the linebackers there, those 3 dudes for us in our 4-3, they get to fly around and don't have to worry about cutback or anything. And, like that, they get to go. The safeties kind of clean things up for them. We talk about the linebackers correcting the defensive line, the safeties correct the linebackers. So building that 9-man front, creating a wall, we're going to add or subtract bodies based upon what we get on our half of the formation, that split field check. So creating a wall, if you think about it in terms of, if you've got 5 fingers like this, these 4 gaps within, we want, if this is a defensive line, for example, we want everybody else to be able to fit in and fill those gaps and build that wall, not getting too far up the field, and making sure that we're pushing the ball where we want it to go, getting the bodies where we need to get bodies at, never getting outgapped. Press corners. Now you can see in that picture right there, we're not you think of press corners, you think of right up in your face and, getting super physical and all that. And that's not truthfully how we really coach. It's more of a, as Michigan State called in the past, a shadow technique. But we are going to get right in phase right away. And that does trickle down to, we believe, the rest of our defense. We'll talk about that a little bit here, but why press corners? That's part of our identity. It's an attack philosophy. We're not going to give up any gimmies on the outside. We don't like to give up hitches. We don't like to give up, quick game, things of that nature. We want to make guys have to work for it. So the attack philosophy, the inconsistent releases, all the guys that are running routes in the summer, obviously now not many people doing that right now, but guys run those routes on air, don't run it against the press corner, against a guy it doesn't even have to be super physical, but an offhand jam, right? And a mandatory outside release, we feel like that gives us the ability to throw off timing between a quarterback and a receiver when maybe they haven't had as many reps, obviously, against that. So I feel like we force throws to secondary receivers in the middle of the field, but then those guys, even though they are the most dangerous receivers, the shortest distance between them and the quarterback, those are guys that are bracketed in cover 4. So that's a big thing for us. We feel like it's easier to coach than off technique. We don't have to spend time talking to a kid about how he's got to eye up the body position of a guy running at him at full speed from 8 yards away. So we get guys in phase right now, and we feel like it's, not to say it's easier to do, but we feel like it's easier for us to coach, get guys to play fast. But getting back kind of into talking about how that distributes down to the run game, a lot of teams try to crack our safeties, and we say that if we're going to get that crack, we're going to flatten out that crack. Okay, it's not going to be a straight arrow, looking like a slant or whatever, right into that safety. We're going to treat it like a slant. We're going to offhand jam it and ride him down. And a lot of the time, you'll see that what ends up happening is when we get cracked like this, that kind of naturally brings our corner into the fit. So that's a big thing. It's not just the pass game with press corners. It trickles down to our entire defense. But that's one of our main identity things that, people in our area know that when you play Portage Central, you're going to play against press corners. All right, run fits. Okay, just some basic run fit rules. I'm not gonna break you down into different formations and fronts because, like I said, this is a system that is able to be ran from multiple fronts. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about mostly perimeter run fits, but the way that we install our checks, okay, those tell our kids who is the force player and who, by essence, then are the spill players, okay? And that's the each half the formation. But, some of our checks that we have are simple ones. We make a club call anytime that we're in our base and we've got zero removes, so a nub set tight end or a tight end wing. That means corner force for us. Mustang, that's our base, that's our mascot, it's our go-to. The one removed, typically we're going to get with just that there, one removed, we're going to get safety force. So our safety is going to think of themselves being in the fit. But spill players, if you are not the force player to your side of the formation, then you're a spill player. Right, you're squeezing any down block. You are squeezing the air out of your gap, and you're going to fit any of those kickouts on the inside half. Right, a lot of guys call that wrong arming. One of the stole this from a Michigan guy, actually, Greg Madison, Ohio State, I guess you could say now, but the dent technique, and I thought that the way that he was coaching this up was pretty good. But when we spill pullers or fullbacks, right, we're not trying to waste and go 1 for 1, right? That's great to get the ball that to kick out one more gap to the perimeter. But a lot of the time what we're trying to do is get a piece of the second puller. You'll see a lot with, a lot of teams that in our area don't do run fits the way that we necessarily do, right? So we're doing lots of spilling, and you'll see that teams that, aren't familiar necessarily with us doing that, we get 2 for 1s quite a bit. You talk about power, for example, we might get a fullback kicking out our end there or a long trap or whatever it might be. And you'll see that our spiller will keep his shoulders square, use that dent technique where he's not turning his shoulders in. He's not wasting himself. He is denting with his hands the inside half of that blocker there, and he'll get a piece of that second guy. We talk about not wanting to get up the field traditionally and just sound defensive principles, but actually with that dent technique, you do want to try to run through that upfield shoulder and try to get a piece of that guy who's trying to log around, get that 2 for 1. Okay. What we're trying to do, we mentioned earlier, obviously, we're trying to make the ball carrier have to plant and cut horizontally. We feel like, as fast as this game is played, anytime that the ball carrier has to plant his foot and go opposite of the direction that he wants to go, that's a win for us. Okay? The majority of the time, that's going to be a win for us. Okay. Force player, and a lot of guys are familiar with that terminology, but He's keeping the ball on the inside of his near leg, near shoulder. That's where his contact point's going to be. And then on the backside, as the ball declares direction-wise, our force player on the backside becomes what we call our CBR guy, cutback, boot, and reverse. He's going to play the cutback. He's going to look for the drag coming across as a boot guy, so he's kind of slow playing that a little bit, then sitting on the reverse. But how we determine our force player, we'll get into that in just a second here. And we're talking about the number of detached receivers. So just so we're on the same page, camp rules, what we talk about in terms of being detached, 5 yards from that man in the line. Okay, that's generally just our kind of go-to. That's considered detached from the formation. All right, so the number 2 receiver in quarters coverage is a big deal. Not just in terms of your coverage checks and how you're leveraging him, but also in how we game the perimeter run fits. So in general, when that number 2 receiver, kind of from the outside in, eligible receivers, when he's attached, like in this picture here, a tight end, we coach that safety up there. Hey man, you're playing the run. You're a run player. All right. We feel like our safeties are fast enough to be able to cover those tight ends, all right, on any type of release. And we're not talking about getting them down to linebacker depth and whatnot, because then you're messing with, being able to maybe rob that number 1 in the pass, or, play the cutback on the opposite side and whatnot. But, we want you to get your body down in that run box. And we're not giving you a gap necessarily. Most of the fronts that we see, our safeties don't necessarily have gaps in terms of counting them up on a whiteboard and being static like that. But we're taking what we call it a stick step into the box as we get our read on that tight end. Okay, and I'll mention it now, but all of our reads, I know a lot of quarters guys read quarterback to number 2. And we are 100% on number 2, 100%. We don't stick our eyes in the backfield at all. So the way that we coach up our safeties here, that it has to do with the tight end's hands. If he is free releasing, you've got him vertical, you've got him man to man as he gets past our linebacker depth, you've got him. But as soon as his hands go on, you're finding the football. You're diagnosing flow. We don't want any hesitation. We want you to pull the trigger and be confident in your read that as soon as that guy latches on and blocks down or bases out, my rear end's up there. I'm coming. Okay, and I'm the force guy. I'm keeping everything inside of me. Things are going to spill out to me. Okay? I'm the +1 in that case for us. Okay, and the number 2, when he's detached, when he's removed. I think of it this way. So, quarters, you're protecting the middle of the field. So your overhang player there in the picture, it's our jersey number 7. And then number 4 is our safety. Number 7 is going to be that apex wall player where he's keeping the guy in the middle of the field, but he's inside, right? Aligned inside. And in theory, that slot could release up to our safety and block him. Okay, unhinged or whatever. Okay, nothing stopping him from getting to that safety. So, if that money kid, we call him our money, that number 7 right here, if he was going to spill in and they came out to him, well, who are you going to spill to, right? So we spend a lot of time talking to our kids that in terms of number 2, the location of 2 determines how our monies, or our outside linebackers in our case, are going to fit the run. All right. So a number 2 detached like this, that number 7 right there should be taken on every single block that he sees with his right leg, right shoulder. Okay. Then the safeties play the crack replace technique. All right. So our safeties in this case, this wouldn't be necessarily a 9-man front, because the offense has moved the guy out. Okay, so we're going to move a guy out with him, and that's our safety. Okay, so he's playing crack replace technique, which means now if that slot were to crack down on that overhand there, well, I replace him as the force player, and we've got some clips there to show you kind of what that looks like. He's going to correct the linebacker's fit. Okay, we coach those overhangs to defeat a block, and that might be to the outside or based on what type of run scheme it is, hard flow or fast flow, it might be to the inside. Okay, but the safety's going to correct his fit. Okay, linebackers correct D-line, safeties correct linebackers, fluid front. Okay, some positional notes real quick here. Defensive line, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this, but we can play this out of any structure. Most important thing for defensive line in this system, understand being a spill and kill defense, is that block down, step down, BDSD. Okay, they're going to be spill players, so if they're denting on any pullers in the inserts, you want to have that inside hand down, inside foot back. That way you can get the proper leverage and the proper step down to the line of scrimmage and hit your key and close him down. Okay, but we are the past few years of Portage Central, we have not had the size at defensive line that maybe we've had in the past. We've had some tough kids who are smaller and scrappier. We've been pretty big on post snap line movement. Okay, I I do think that at the high school level, that's one of the difficult things that offenses struggle with is post-snap line movement. Okay. So we do it a lot, almost, I won't say every down, but it's pretty darn near close. Now, there's been a few years in the past, we've had some pretty decent defensive linemen where, if they're on the inside there, 3 technique and 4 down, or your nose guard and your 3 down, you're not going to move as much. We're going to let those guys be dudes and do what they do. So, but again, the fluid front guys allows you to do a lot of different things in your base defense with just simple tags, moving guys around to be able to make things a little bit more, a little tougher on the offense, we feel. Okay, linebackers. I want to point this out here that in terms of teaching gaps, we get out trash cans and do all that stuff just like everybody else. But we don't teach gaps for assignments. We teach gaps for alignments. But one of the things that that I've been taught by, that the people that I learned football from, was you can keep it as simple as you've got this gap, he's got this gap, so on and so forth, and we got the numbers, and you can show that to your kids as far as them believing that you're gapped out and you can stop the run, so on and so forth. But ultimately it's about running the football. And hey, if I'm the A gap Mike, and hey, that center and that guard in my gap there are stepping together, well, shoot, there's no gap, right? So I'm finding the football, and I feel like the quarter system allows you to really play to that. Are you playing with fire a little bit with the younger kids? Maybe. But as you get with an older group and allowing them the freedom to attack their gap initially, but then find the open space, play defense like a running back, fly to the football. Your dudes, your buddies will correct any mistake that you have. And I think that gives us a mental advantage to playing the game fast. All right. Now, that being said, with young kids and whatnot, you got to teach, maybe you got to teach those gaps initially, but I would be careful with that as you get into the modern era of football, and guys finding ways to put you in conflict on their side of the ball and whatnot. We've got to get into some of this. I think defensively as a profession, have to be able to teach these fluid fronts and movements to kind of stay ahead of the offense a little bit. All right. So just my thought. It might be wrong, might be right. I don't know. That's the way that we coach, and it's been fun for us. But that's what we're talking about, and being a fluid front and pushing the ball where we want it to go. Whether that's spilling, line movements, gap exchanges, we're trying to get the math in our favor. Okay. One thing that our kids know, and we say this a lot, we say ATP, and what that means for us is align and perform. So alignment is related to assignment. And in terms of quarters, your Mike is your number 3 match player, your outside backs are your number 2 guys, so they are going to align based upon where those guys are lined up. And so where are they? They can be in the backfield, they can be a wing where they're still attached, they could be on the line of scrimmage attached, or they could be detached. And I'm going to move myself based on the position of my match key. I'm going to pull the chain of my match responsibility. All right, so if that number 2 is outside, then my outside linebacker and my safety, who are number 2 match players, they're moving out too. And you get into trips, 3-by-1 open. Well, now the Mike has to bump out a little bit and put himself on the hip of that defensive end and be able to play that guy on the pass in terms of his low hole responsibility. Got to align and perform. Okay. We got some fancy diagrams and stuff because, like I said, we're transitioning to being a 4 down this year and don't have a ton of film as far as talking about that, obviously. So kind of how we look, but alignments and keys for linebackers going forward. I think with keys, you're always trying to find the balance between consistency and quality. And by consistency, I mean not changing things for your young players, especially from a week-to-week basis. But along those same lines, if you're playing the full house power T in the state of Michigan one week, and then you're playing a 11 personnel RPO team the next week or whatever, never pulls guards or inside zone type stuff, well, you're probably not keying the same things, right? So it's always finding that balance there between consistency and quality. But our camp rules for our linebackers that we start with, and we work in the summer when we can work with our kids. But if you're in the box, you are reading triangle to near back. And by triangle, we mean the gap directly in front of you. Again, not teaching that as an assignment necessarily, but as an alignment, reading shoulder to shoulder with the triangle to the near back. Okay, so we're reading through the line to try to be able to see pullers. When we would say the primary read there is really the near back. Okay, out of the box, we're reading the back and the mesh. Okay, QB back and the QB running back mesh point. All right, where we're getting a ball in the belly. A lot of the times we are triggering to that. Now, if you're playing an RPO team, we'll talk about different ways to maybe slow down that trigger pull a little bit and let us leverage the RPO, but that's how we're reading things. You'll see there kind of diagrammed up that our mic is 5 yards back and our outside backs are at 4. So that's that's another old school kind of Pat Narduzzi Michigan State thing that if you are a spill team, when you see power and you see ISO and counter and things of that nature, we have a lot of those teams on our schedule. That triangle alignment allows you, for example, in a C-gap run for that Sam or Will backer, and talk about the Sam in this case in that formation there. Okay, let's say you're getting power there and a puller leading up. Well, he's spilling the crap out of that puller, getting right on his inside half. And that triangle alignment allows that mic to overlap him. Okay. And then that Will would be coming across with the guard on the backside. All right. So we do like that against some of the downhill power run teams that we see, is getting that overlap alignment, that triangle alignment to let those guys play fast. Okay. Safeties, alignments, and keys. And we're talking about stopping the run tonight, essentially, but the number one job if you're covering for a safety, he's got to play the vertical route of number 2. Okay, those guys have to be able to cover. I know it sounds cool that, hey, we're making 9 and 10 man fronts and whatnot, but those guys are not going to come up and play in the phone booth. When we talk about creating the front, we're talking about spilling the ball out to them so they can run it down, on an angle tackle and whatnot. But they have got to be cover guys. Our safeties are cover guys playing the vertical route of number 2. So that comes down to having eye control. And again, getting our eyes out of the back. We do not read the quarterback with our safeties. Okay, in our base defense, anyways, I'll say. Maybe we got to get our eyes out of the backfield, get on that number 2. We feel that everything at our level, and there's guys that coach this way at the college level too, that everything that you need to know is going to be verified by that number 2. So again, alignment and assignment, eye control right on that guy, ATP. Okay. If number 2 is attached, we tell our safeties that 8 to 10 yards off of number 2. It's somewhat down and distance related, but 1st and 10 is probably 8 yards. Okay, one good step outside, it's 1 to 2 yards. That allows you to get down and keep the ball inside of you when that ball does spill out. And you're thinking run. Okay, action 2, you're the force player. Action away, you're the CBR player. Okay, counter boot reverse, cut back boot reverse. Stemming down, shuffling, and finding the football. Number 2 is detached. We're 10 yards off the receiver, not 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. So if he's a slot and he's a yard and a half off the line, well, we shouldn't be at 10 yards. We should be at that 8.5, 9. Inside shade, we're protecting the middle of the field, and we're past first guys in that case. When number 2's out of the box, we're out of the box. Okay? They subtract numbers, we'll subtract numbers. They add, we'll add, so on and so forth. Okay, but a lot of these schemes that guys, you see a too high team, and it's always fun to me when guys say if it's too high, I'll run the ball. Well, okay, that's cool. A lot of the schemes don't account for that, for 2 shell safeties, 2 high safeties. So it is what it is, but we consider those guys to be a part of the fit. Okay, and that being said, inside run period, and we do that during the season and in preseason, our inside run period involves safeties. Okay, they're there. They're working with our linebackers, and it lets those guys see the big picture, and it gets them to work. So, talk about some very simple alignments there. Whether you're a 3-4 or 4-3, it doesn't matter. Your outside backers are moving with that number 2, and so your safeties. So what's that look like in terms of the full field? We're going to look at a couple sets here where your safety would be the force player. Okay. The first one, I like to start with Pro I. I know it's kind of old school and whatnot, but actually, the best team that we play in our league, our rival is a big Pro I team. They've had, 2 Division I caliber backs, and it's worked out pretty well for them. So we start with the Pro I. I think it's a good way to just show different formations of football and just moving one guy around and kind of how things get lined up. But in this case here, we would consider this to be our 9-man front, where we have a number 2 attached to our left-hand side here, and that safety is going to be our force player. Okay, he's right on top and eyeing him up 1 step to the outside. We play the 9 technique, 9, 3, 1, and 5. Okay, 50 backers and a 10 mic. All right, then to the boundary here, where's the number 2 counting from the outside in? 1, 2's in the backfield. Okay, so what's his vertical responsibility here? Be it if anybody comes out. And typically you don't see a ton of that, but this guy should be thinking run. All right, so should he. As soon as that tight end attaches on any of these guys here, we're going to be down. One thing you'll notice there that we play with stand-up ends. That's just a personnel thing for us. You can certainly put your hand down in the dirt and have a true defensive end type body there. But in our 4-3 here, a lot of guys, 4-2 is obviously one of the more popular structures. What's the difference between a 4-2 and a 4-3? It would be real simply that this DN is in the C gap and this backer's walk down, right? That's essentially 4-2 is your gap is changing that C gap and that D gap right there, and then your other backers bump over. Okay, that's kind of how we've looked in the past. When we've been a 3-down team, we've really been in under front. So we've played it that way too. But when you play Pro I, for example, here, one of the things that I didn't necessarily like about the under front was that when teams ran power, you're getting 2 double teams. And if you get a 1 and a 5 here, you could get the guard in the center there, double teaming on that 1. Okay, you could get that tackle scooping that 3 and cutting him off. You get a double team on that C gap player there, and you get teams humping it up in the A gap trying to run power. Okay, so we really want power defensively to be ran to that C gap. Okay, please do. All right, we can squeeze that base block from that end there. We can hold our ground. We're going to spill with our overhang here. Okay, we're going to overlap here. We're going to get this kid across the face when he sees that puller. Okay, and our safety's down and reading where that ball's hitting. All right, and we're down playing cutback with that backside safety. Just a quick look there at some 21 personnel stuff, and then you talk about 11. In this case, all that's just the fullback out in the slot, right? In terms of teaching the numbers and the math to your kids. Okay, so in this case, we talk about remove number 2. So it's going to be the exact same call on the left-hand side here on this half of the field. Okay, between this safety, that corner, that outside backer, okay, they're all playing it the exact same way as they just were in Pro I. They're playing our Mustang check. Okay, press safety. It's really robber technique for a lot of guys' terminology with how we call that. Just our Mustang technique is what we do. Okay, over here, you see that a lot of guys didn't really move for us. Okay, who moved? Really just the safety in that outside backer. Okay, that number 2 is detached, so that safety's out of the fit. This backer's taking it on with his left shoulder, near leg, near shoulder. Anything that comes to him is going back in. All right. Now he does have a gap. If you were to look at the math on the board, right, he's still a B gap player. So one of the things I'd like to mention, especially this is gun and zone read and different things and so on and so forth. Okay, we'll make what we call a deuce call to this defensive end here, to where he knows that he's on the weak side. We call it strong left of the tight end. He knows that he's got an open B gap, that when that tackle bases him out, right, he is going to work and try to use that leverage of that tackle against him to try to sling his body back into the B gap. Okay, so you see that tackle, an OC would think on the board now that he's got that B gap there. This guy's got to fold all the way in, and maybe they're running, some type of bubble or whatever. Try to put him in conflict. Okay, that's great. But we're going to try to minimize his conflict by finding a way to try to, again, push that ball out to the perimeter a little bit more. Okay, so when he steps in this offensive tackle with his right foot and trying to cut him off and drive out, well, with his feet moving opposite, that's fine. We're going to try to work that inside half and try to sling him out and put our rear end in there and get that ball to bounce out. So that's one of the deuce calls, one of the ways that we use to leverage some spatial issues in terms of that 11 personnel set. Okay. 12 personnel. Okay. If I was an offensive guy, one of my favorite formations. And I love the ability for guys to get 8 gaps, immediately at the line of scrimmage with 4 vertical threats. Okay, but in terms of, going back to I formation, what's that? That ace formation is just that fullback offset to, the weak side now, essentially. Okay, so typically we'll, if we saw something like this, we'd set our strength of the field, and we kick our, if they're going to put that guy there, it's going to be for a reason. Okay, we're thinking that you're going to maybe get, outside zone or power counter, something along those lines. Okay, we'll put this guy in like I call it a G technique, where he's on the inside shade of that guard instead of the, 1 there on the center. Just give us a little bit more leverage. We'll keep this defensive end on the weak side in the C gap. Okay, and again, I know that this changes based upon whether you're a 3-down or, maybe a 4-2-5 or whatever, but just trying to show you here, kind of leverage-wise, how we feel like we still have things in our favor defensively. Okay, you've got 8 gaps up here, which means that in terms of the real math, right, that one of your safeties would have to account for a gap or your Mike would have to two gap, okay, that's fine. If you were to get outside zone, okay, let's say outside zone coming to the offensive left, our right, okay, well, we're not teaching this guy that, hey, man, you're an A-gap player. You're going to go bury yourself in there when the ball's dictating all the way out here. No, it's not going to be that way. Hey, or this kid's not going to come and bury himself in the B-gap. Well, hey, coach, I'm a B-gap player. No, not necessarily. Hey, if he was to get a path coming to the outside there, we're going to match the path to back. Hey, play defense like a running back, right? So then, well, hey, who's responsible for cutback now? All right, everybody's moving this way. Right, with this backside safety, he's reading that tight end. He locks on. He's going to stem down and shuffle slowly. He's your cutback guy. Okay, so there's an example there in quarters how you can really allow those linebackers to cut loose and run the football. Okay, so we're getting that action away from us here. This backer, as I'm doing this, I hope you guys can see my mouse and all that, but he's not sitting around and saying, well, that ball could cut back, coach. No, he is flying and finding daylight. Okay, and his other two buddies are doing it too. That's kind of what that looks like. I know on Zoom it maybe gets a little bit choppy for us, but I'll at least be able to pause a little bit and show some stuff. But I want to show you some of our safety force run tape and kind of show some of this in action. All of it's going to be from 3 down. That's what we've done in the past, but we'll go from here and take a look. So with this here, let's see. Okay, formation that we have, this is 3-by-1. This is 12 personnel. I'd call it 12 personnel. I guess you call it 11 maybe with this guy being a receiver, but you've got a tight end here and you've got the wing. Okay, we're in pistol. All right, and this team is running kind of an inverted power read or traditional power read, reading our end. So he's down taking that dive. Okay, so they're here reading this. Oh, no, I messed it up. Sorry. Okay, C-gap player, I should say. Okay, so they were maybe reading this mic right there. All right, and now this guy's out and around. Okay, now how does this look going back to the very beginning? Okay, who's the force player? How many detached receivers do we have here? Well, we're not considering this guy to be detached. Okay, there's one removed receiver right here. All right, so that means that in terms of the fit, this safety is thinking that he's in this thing. So as soon as this slot, or whatever you want to call him, this wing, attaches himself to our overhang, he's down. He's going to correct the fit of that guy. All right, let's take a look at how he does here. Okay. All right, good extension here by our overhang. Okay, to try to create some separation there. And we want him to get off the block right away. And we don't want him to dilly-dally and dance around a little bit, because then who are you making the read tough on? You're making the read tough on that safety. Right? He wants to see where you're fitting so he can come down and make you right. Okay, so we see that he kind of dances out a little bit, not perfect square shoulders. Okay, but that ball does spill back out. That linebacker does regather himself. Okay, and in terms of numbers here, that safety's unblocked. He's unblocked. Right? You can't see it here, and he kind of lunges and loses his feet a little bit, but he gets his hand right on this football and causes a fumble. Okay, I know it's kind of tough to see, probably pretty choppy for you guys watching, but, if you can see the reaction time of this kid here and how quickly he gets down, he's one of the best we've had. Yeah, that's one of our kids who was a Division II player, played up at Saginaw Valley. He's one of our diamonds. He was unbelievable. It was a Kalamazoo Player of the Year for us. Had like 15 tackles for loss of safety, just crazy. Okay, one other thing that I want to point out real quick here, the guy that scoops this fumble actually should have scooped and scored. Going back and talking about safety play, it's our backside safety. This kid back here, who his number 2 receiver is pre-snap. His number 2 is actually all the way over here. We're playing what we call our solo check, where his eyes are looking over here. All right, and he's going to match that, whatever vertical route he gets from into the middle of the field, he's going to take that. But otherwise, he's doing the same technique that this kid's doing. Okay, is he attaching? Right, if he is, I'm down. I'm finding the football. I'm probably playing counter boot reverse. Okay, cutback boot reverse. But he's the kid who gets down here. He stems down, good square shoulders. He's going to shuffle, and play cutback. Okay, slow. All right, now it's diagnosed. Ball's between his feet, and he still can't scoop it. Yeah, he's still fiddling around with it. Nah, we recovered it, though. All good. Okay, good safety play there on both sides. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for those guys who go, hey, man, is it a run? Is it a pass? Trust what you see. And that comes from reps. That comes from confidence. But trust what you see. Pull the trigger. Okay. Same game. Same formation of under center now. So we had tight end wing. We knew that this was a big outside zone set for them. Okay. One thing you're going to see here in terms of the spill stuff, you're going to see our overhang here fit right between that tight end and that wing. Okay. We're going to push that ball. We're trying to get that wing to block us here. Okay, outside zone. All right. And our safety is down. And then on what we call a banana route, I just drew the crappiest banana of all time. All right. But that's what it looks like right there. Our safety coming down on the band. All right. Spilling the football out to him. Okay, unblocked. Square shoulders. Chase him down. Get the guy down in space. Is it a perfect form tackle? No. Okay, does he do his job and get the guy down? Yes. All right. And again, same formation, number 3. Over there is just my number 2, walked over. All right. His shoulders not quite as square. I know it's probably tough to see, but okay, pretty good job there as far as showing the spill. All right, let's take a look at that technique. We don't want him to get skinny. We want him to take that on thick and take it on square. And again, if there was a puller coming through and there isn't one, it's outside zone. And we would look for him to get a piece of that second guy and let a linebacker rat free. All right. He does make the ball go outside. That's what we're looking to do. But we want to take those pullers, those inserts on thick. Okay. Take them on thick. All right. Take a look here. In this, you're going to see kind of a interesting play, kind of a power read with a false pull. Okay. So we got a head up 4 technique down here that they're reading. All right. And they're false keying our linebacker and pulling this guard opposite. Okay. And they're going to run power read over here to the wide side of the field. They have pretty good play design. Okay, but in terms of the call that we were in, our base defense, again, this safety is number 2 is attached. Well, he doesn't care what's going on in the backfield or with pullers or blah, 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 blah. He's going to see this guy attach onto his overhang, and he's going to get down and correct the fit. Okay. So we'll see here we come down to the dive, so the ball is given. Okay, so the ball is out here on the perimeter, and our safety triggered right now. Same kid in the last couple clips. Good player. Funny how that works out, is we all show clips of our best kids, right? Just the way the ball declared, our overhang comes outside, but the ball declares out. We're on that banana, drawing pretty crappy again. Okay, 6-yard loss. It was 3rd and 1. Okay, huge play. All right, come down and freeze it here, but there is from snap, as soon as this kid's hands are on, and just knowing the down and distance. Okay, 3rd and 1. We wouldn't have been mad at this kid for playing up here at 4 yards. Okay, just knowing the situation. All right, his reaction time here is phenomenal. Yeah, he's down. Good course. Ball's down. We're off the field. A lot of emotion. Big play. Love it. Love it. So those are some safety force sets right there that I wanted to show you. Okay. Good. We'll look at a couple more sets here and talk about now backer force. All right. 10 personnel, 2x2. Common look here. A lot of the times, I think it's kind of funny when you look at a 2-high system or with a 3-4, whether it's a 4-3. Well, when you spread those 2 guys out and you get the slots there, guys will tell you that becomes a 4-1 box or a 3-2 box. Well, guys, the dimensions in high school football. I've got the stat in a slide later on. All right, we played 80% of our snaps from a hash in 2019. 80%. All right, so game in the dimensions. I put this model on the hash. This is all Go Army Edge, by the way, if you guys recognize this. This ball's on the hash to show you here, alignment-wise. This will backer for us in the boundary. Yeah, he's got that B gap there, but he does not have to kick himself all the way out to be able to reroute is number 2 on a pass. Again, aligned to perform. Right? This is a 6-man box, not a 5-man box, 6-man box. Okay? We can make it a 7-man box eventually, even against the RPO teams with the back set here to the field and reading this guy. You know, if this guy's going to be in the fit, you know, there's 6 gaps up here, so on and so forth. If he's the 7th guy, well, he's not going to come and fold all the way in the A gaps and you know, make a play. That means we had something go wrong in the front. Otherwise, the ball's going to get pushed out. If he is involved in the run fit here, and we'll show you a couple clips where he does, you know, that ball's going to be hitting out here. Okay, so in terms of defending the RPO, he can hang in his alignment, understanding he's the field, he's got the back to his side. That's where the QB's vision is going to be. I might be the guy getting read. I don't need to come flying in on that QB running back match. I can take my reset. I can hold for a second. I might even get my reroute on this kid. Okay? But the ball's going to come out later to me if I'm involved in that run fit. I can be the 7th guy when I need to be, where I need to be. All right, look at 3-by-1. What does that do alignment-wise? Well, again, that's just, this is the number 2 just walked over, right? And we're not going to talk about the ways that we play this, you know, coverage-wise necessarily, but in terms of being the match players, our Mike's the 3-match player, okay? And you'll notice that if you're a 4-down team, you know, a lot of guys do this, and this is good. Okay, set your front away from trips. You're playing 10 personnel, 3-by-1. Set that front away from trips so that you can reduce the conflict of this player here. Right? He doesn't have to fold all the way back in if he's got a 3 technique. His, you know, again, not talking assignments necessarily, but where's the bubble in the defense going to be? It's right here. Okay, the bubble's pushed out wider to him when you set your front away. Okay, and that protects your will, who's tucked in a little bit more. He might be tucked in a little too much in terms of how I drew this up. If he's going to be a little more protected by that 3 technique, all right, to boundary run game. Okay, so just a little thing there with 3-by-1. Who's the force player here in 3-by-1? Okay, when we have trips, that sand, that money, whatever you want to call him, okay, he is completely out of the fit here. All right, the match player, the apex player to the narrowest receiver, okay, our Mike in this case, he would take on anybody with his inside shoulder. So everything, if they were going to run something, you know, in this open B gap bubble here, he is pushing it back to his buddy. Okay, he is the force player in that case. All right, we'll take a look at some of these backer force run tapes. Got a few things here. All right. Let's see. This is Traverse City Central up north. Played a home and home with them. You know, about a 4-hour bus ride. This game was they got us this game. Very well coached, very good team. We split with them the next year, but this game, I don't know exactly when this was in terms of the actual gameplay, but this was delayed by lightning, and you're on a 4-hour trip or whatever. You know, this game was finished at like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. But kind of show you the formation here. We've got a number 2 out. Okay, 1's over here. Number 3, so 20 personnel, 11 personnel, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you've got 7 gaps in this case that are created by this H-back. So you got to account for that one way or another. Okay, and there's 2 ways you can essentially do it, either dropping this safety down and pushing this one out of the fit, okay, or you can keep this safety over the top and play some games with the backside stud here, okay, and join this guy in. All right, we kind of, you know, truthfully kind of committed everybody to the run just to kind of stop what they were doing. We felt pretty good about our matchups on the perimeter. But you can see here that he kind of gets away with taking a false step. Yeah, I'll come and pause it. Boom. Okay, a little bit of false step, opens his shoulders to that number 2, but he's still got his eyes on the mesh. And again, this is fine. He does not need to come flying in. Okay, he does not have a gap necessarily right away. The ball's going to be pushed out to him. And what you're going to see here, this is just an ISO. Okay, so you're going to see a base. You're going to see an insert. Okay, but again, if you're not a force player, you're a spill player. Okay, and watch our Mike here, how he takes on this block. I'll get there and freeze it. Boom. Thick, somewhat square shoulders, good collision. Okay, where's the gap? It's right here. It's open. On a whiteboard, this kid would have it. But again, what do? We kind of sling the ball out a little bit with our defensive end, using the momentum against him to put himself in that gap. okay, and force the ball out to an unblocked overhang. Okay, so pushing the ball where you want it to go. This is designed, right, to hit vertically and be a north-south play right up through the heart of the defense. Right, it's a vertical hitting play, physical play. That gap should be open right there. This kid should be taking it, so on and so forth. Close it up, push the ball where you want it to go as best you can. Having good players helps. All right, but just philosophically what we're trying to do there. Another clip from Traverse City Central. This is power read. Okay, so you're going to see this here. He's going to be a dive kid all the way. Our base defense. Got to have changeups against the good option teams. This was not what they majored in, so we didn't have a changeup necessarily with this one. Maybe he should be down taking the dive, which is the quarterback in this case, right? And we've got our force player here with 2 removed. Okay, his key is that mesh point here. He knows that on any pass play, this one comes out, he's going to end up colliding it and taking it in the flats. That's his 2-match player rule. If he were to become the new number 2. All right, this kid runs right at him. I think we just coached him up. That's something they ran, this little jet read. And said, just go kill that kid. Okay. All right. Is it perfect technique and whatnot? No. Was the kid being coachable with what we told him to do? Yes. Okay. We were going to get the down on the dive. We were going to get the scrape exchange out here with our mic. And I hope the stuff's all showing up good. But yeah, you can see that our mic is unblocked. Okay. And again, our safety in this case, why do you have to force it when number 2 is removed? If he spills this and the ball gets outside, well, then you're just in a pure foot race between a mic and a fast slot. Okay? This safety is unavailable. He is being blocked. Okay? He's got that guy releasing on him. Down, boom. Okay, ball does cut up and inside. All right? Again, could you make that play? Maybe. Okay, but the mic gets him down. And again, helps to have good players. All right, last clip with this one with the backer force. Okay, we would really consider this to be 2 detached. All right, 1, 2. Okay, the number 3 in this case, he's off the line of scrimmage, but this was 10 personnel. It was a receiver personnel grouping for them. Okay, but we're playing in this case. All right. And this number 2 was kind of wishy-washy, whether he was, coach the inside 5 yards, whatever. Listen, you 2 communicate, and you have the freedom to play however you want to play it, as long as you communicate. All right. You're going to see power read here again. Okay. And this is our crack replace technique. So this number 2 is down on our overhang. All right. The technique here from our safety is not perfect. I prefer that he does not pedal out as much as he does here, especially on 1st and 10, and being a spread option team running the football. Okay, he should be eye control and bounce reading on this number 2. Okay, the boundary safety is reading that number 3. Okay, but pretty good extension here. And again, the coaching point for that overhang, get off the block. Get off the block. Clear up the alley for your safety. Let him be able to correct your fit. Okay, so he does come around, gets held, and so on and so forth. Not a big deal. All right. But our safety does a nice job here of staying in leverage. Okay. Coming to balance. All right. And gets the guy down. Okay. Was it a great clip of coming to balance? No, probably not. But okay. But gets the guy down, and that's a 0-yard gain. All right. That's crack replace. You want to call that? We would call that a crack. Does he seal the outside? No. All right. But do we replace him in the fit? Yes. Okay. Nice job responsibility-wise by our safety and getting the guy down. That's the number one thing. Get the guy down in space. Doesn't have to be pretty. All right. And again, could have gone back and nitpicked on some of the footwork and whatnot, but pretty good overall. We'll take that. Okay. Let's see. All right. last of the force we're going to talk about is corner force, our club. Okay? In this case, we drew up 21 personnel, gun, two back. All right, nub side tight end here. Okay, our corner in this case makes that club call, and we are playing essentially this. This is cover two. This is cover two. He's going to play any vertical to flat route. Now, he's only got one eligible here. Okay, so not a big deal. The safety can cover that. All right, we could invert and get more of a run guy down and more of a cover guy back. Invert C2, we've done that in the past. Okay, but this is club force. All right, and we still do like to play with a 9 technique in this case. You could put him in the C gap and put your corner up here in the D, truthfully. All right, but we have a Sam here, or Will, okay, who's playing that C gap there, and the corner can play whatever gap is created by the insert or the puller. Okay, we see gun T a little bit in our league. In this case, again, we call it the exact same coverage check. Now it's 2x2, right? One back. We've got tight end wing. We're still playing club, but this one has to know that he can be a little bit looser because if the ball hits out here where there's 5 gaps, that's going to be wide, right? Okay, he can be a little bit looser, but now we got 2 eligible receivers, and we might have to play 2 vertical routes. One of the gun T teams on our schedule a few years ago played or ran a lot of switch verticals. Okay, switch verticals with these 2 guys right there. And we take one of them, but then, this kid would get caught up playing, thinking he's getting buck sweep or whatever it might be, and then, you got a guy running down the middle of the field. Okay, so he's got to know the situation. He has to understand that there are 2 threats, and we play a little bit looser. And again, that's where that 9 technique comes into play and being able to kind of string that a little bit if you're seeing some of this gun stuff. Right? We'll show you one. Would not be a clinic from a guy in Michigan, right, without a little bit of Michigan tea. So how this would look in our base defense. And not, you have different ways that people play this stuff. It gets crazy in our state at times, right? But following our rules here, again, we're going to play club to both sides, where the safety's just keying up that number 2. Or really, not number 2, it'd be the number 1 in this case is that attached tight end. He's a cover 2 safeties on each side. Okay, they have the D path, right? And then we've got the club force corners. In this case, I'll show you a clip of how we play that here in just a little bit. Corner force, here we go. All right, so to the field here, to our side. They want to show you this again. The guys that make this play, the guys that make this tackle at the line of scrimmage, we've got I formation twins with a nub tight end near the field. They just get a little ISO. And the guys that make this play are corners and safeties. Our 9 technique owns the D gap, stays out there. We spill or fit up. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'll try to bring it back here just a little bit. Okay. But this Mike right here, he's still going to spill that lead ISO. Okay. Boom. All right. Get that ball to bounce out. Who were the guys fitting? This is our corner. And this was a cover 2 safety. Okay. Cover 2, but you had 1 threat. You've got 1 vertical threat from a tight end who never caught a football in any of the games that we had in this one. Okay. So we're going to come up and stop the run. Boom. Okay, there's our numbers. All right. Gain of 1. Okay. Same team here we have to start out. We have a single split to the boundary. Okay. We've got a wing. All right. This is essentially 20 personnel or 11, whatever you want to call this H-back here. We're going to get this motion down. We would be in our Mustang check here playing press man on this one. Okay. With a safety reading his number 2 here. Okay. But when they reduce down like this, that corner checks to club. Okay, we're not going to play man to press man against an attached number 1. Okay, they like to run their quarterback. This kid was really good. This is a Forest Hill Central team in Grand Rapids, very well coached, very good team. Had a great game here at our field a couple of years ago. Okay, this quarterback's at Michigan State right now. As a tight end, big kid. Okay, but again, our safety here, even though he's a cover 2 safety in this case, okay, he knew during the week, he was smart, what they were trying to do out of this and trying to run that quarterback. Okay, just trying to show you here the aggression of being able to get these guys into the fit. Okay, he's got to take anybody vertical, any of these 2 guys, any of these two kids that run vertical, he's over the top of them. Maybe he trusts his keys, trusts his instincts and what the scouting report told him. Okay. And as soon as he gets attachment there and he knows that he's got some help if one of those guys releases it, he just pulled the trigger and went, man. That's what we're looking for. Okay. I think we really got to be careful sometimes as coaches is, sometimes over coaching kids against aggression. Hey, you got to be careful about this. I'm just as bad as anybody else, but we want our kids to be confident in what they see and go. And you can't get mad at them for doing it. If they do something wrong, all right, I'm not going to blow up on them. I'm going to coach them up, right? But we want those kids to have the freedom to be able to play fast. Okay. Corners force here. Okay, this is a wing T team we had week 1 this past year, 2019. It was kind of cheap because our corner, he actually was a linebacker for us. He can run a little bit. So it's kind of a cheap force player here, but nice job keeping it inside of him. He's as wide as he is with tight end wing. We're okay with him turning his shoulders in a little bit. Okay. Boom, stays outside. He's going to push the ball in. Okay, the ball bounced to makes the play. Okay. The corner force. That's a corner there making a 5-yard TFL. Right. So corner force there. Okay, that's the last kind of film I got. I just want to leave you with a couple of things as we get into teaching our defense. I believe in this modality of learning. And we look at, we had this in a staff meeting and we talk about this, 7 ways that players learn and how we want to make sure that our players have these opportunities. And really there's an 8th kind of bonus model that we're all kind of getting good at in this coronavirus deal. But in the summer when they come in, we feel like in the pre-practice meeting, when you give them a picture, okay, kids are visual learners. When you're doing your install, give them a picture, let them see it, let as you talk it through. And then if you have it, the next opportunity would be film, see it in action, see it live. Okay, get out on the field. We're a big walkthrough team. Our head coach gives us walkthrough time defensively at least every other day with our ones. Okay, but step it out. Okay, step it out. Indie time would be your 4th opportunity to rep the fundamentals, maybe a little bit slower tempo. Group, speed it up a little bit. For example, linebackers and safeties working together. Team is your live tempo. And then you get as much as you possibly can, film it. Okay, post-practice film, evaluate and correct. I put the bonus 8 there as huddle, go army edge models. Your kids have the opportunity to do some learning at home. If you can be technologically savvy and get that up for them, that's an advantage to your program, we feel. Okay. Just a couple of things in terms of building your system. Okay, just remember that, we're not trying to overcomplicate things, but math and physics. In terms of your set, whether you're a 4-3, a 3-4, 4-2, stack, whatever it is, understanding what other teams are going to do to you, studying offense as much as you do defense. How are they going to formation you to put your guys into conflict? In quarters, you're going to have a conflict guy with all this RPO stuff somewhere. So knowing the field dimensions, we kind of talked about a little bit, but defending the space and formationally, things that you can control, minimizing the conflict of your conflict player by building your rules to accommodate where the space is. Okay, where do the spread offenses want to attack? They want to attack the space. Okay, so knowing their strengths, make them beat you another way. The way that we practice, I'm just throwing this out there, we really only rep 6 plays, 3 runs and 3 passes, sometimes maybe four runs and 2 passes or whatever it is. Okay, they're top stuff. What have they been successful with and what are they trying to do? Who are they trying to get the football to? We feel like the rest of the stuff, as coaches and coordinators and whatnot, might keep us up at night, that one trick play or whatever it is. But we feel like with your key reads and your fundamentals and your pursuit and the things that you work on, your ABCs, those can defend the rest. They take away the best, defend the rest, is what we talk to our kids about. Okay? In terms of quarters and really any system, but knowing your weaknesses. So in quarters, what's the thing that we're going to see most often? We see teams queue up fade balls. Okay, that's great. What do our corners work on every day? They defend fade balls. Our corners coach does a phenomenal job with it. Our former player at Western Michigan played in this type of defense himself. We rep that until they're as comfortable. We feel like we get more reps with fade routes than our opponents do. Our corners get more reps with fade routes than the receivers do that we play against. Okay, so knowing your weaknesses, boot pass would be another in quarters, right? RPO stuff. yes, on a whiteboard, there's some OC maybe watching this going, oh man, we got this thing figured out. But again, finding ways to play games with your base and your line movements and so on and so forth, and pitching your chains up. We'll talk about that in a second there. But your worth. This stuck with me from one of my mentors. Your worth as a coordinator in terms of scheme, or as a position coach in terms of your technique and your fundamentals. That's measuring how well you can fix your problems. Okay, we are all going to find ourselves in situations where the other team has us figured out with what we're doing. Other guys are good coaches who study the game and know how to teach their players, and they've got good players. We are going to get found out at times. You have got to have answers. Your worth as a coach is built on your ability to fix the problems that you see. That's something that stuck with me. All right. I get too wordy as far as defending RPOs, but it's triple option, guys, right? They treat it as such. Have a dive player, a high player, and a pitch player. In quarters, those jobs are pretty well defined between your safety, outside backers, and defensive line. Okay. What's an OC trying to do? They'll tell you one thing. All the guys will tell you in the RPOs that, we do this to protect our runs. We want to run the football. Okay, but really, they're lying to you if they tell you that, they don't get all bug-eyed when they see that overhang bite down. And all of a sudden, you've got that, free run 8-yard slant that turns into a 20-yard gain. Right? That's a big play. Okay. What do they want to do? They want you to mess up and so they can throw that football. So, again, playing the field dimension, defending the space in a 4-3, setting your strength of the field, putting your 3 technique against 10 personnel pushes that overhang out of the fit. Okay, we saw that on the film there where he can hang and he can play that ball as it bounces out to him. He does not need to attack and put his safety in a open field one-on-one situation, right? Defend the space. They're going to put the best slot to the field with the most space to run in. 80% of the snaps from the hash. Okay. But find ways to get your conflict player out of the fit. Put your conflict player where then? To the boundary, right? Where space is limited. Okay. RPOs. Understanding that the vast majority of RPOs are going to be run to the same side as the back. Okay. In high school football, does that mean that you want to always put your front to the back? That would make sense if that were the case. Okay, but when the ball's on a hash and the back is set to the boundary, well, if they're running RPO to the boundary, it's kind of limited by space. Okay, so one of the rules that we just have is if we're seeing 10 personnel, we're always going to set the strength of the field. It is what it is. Third level RPOs, we'll make the press corners. Okay, kind of eliminates the effectiveness of those boundary third level RPOs. See that bang 8 route that's pretty popular. With the sinking down safeties. Again, a lot of that's out of 20 and 11. We talked about trying to get the 7th hat down in the box, and guys will do that with the safeties dropping down. Okay. One of the favorite thing that we like to play back there, even though the safety is not tied over to the trip side with the different checks we have, we just play press man, and we have that quarterback is reading the safety is reading the cue in that case, right? His number 2 is gone and in the backfield or whatever. Okay. We're not going to come and shoot him down, and even if we did, we got a press corner. He's not bailed off at 10 yards and backpedaling, and all of a sudden that bang 8 route hits right there. Okay, so all that being said, guys, talk about pitching your changeups and whatnot, and protecting your base. In a perfect world, we would say that if you're in your base defense, if you just called it all game and you didn't have to call anything else and you could win, well, that'd be great. It's not going to be the case against a quality opponent, a good coaching staff. But your changeups, however you build your system, it should complement those quote-unquote weaknesses of your base D. Okay, for us in quarters, we really like the cover 3 stuff. Okay, it's so simple. It's a simple install for us. When you're bailing a corner and closing the middle of the field, that takes away really the effectiveness of that fade ball and puts that doubt in the mind of the play caller, right? And then the pattern matching underneath in cover 3, it's really the same as quarters. Outside backs are number 2 match players. Mike is number 3, so on and so forth, right? There's not a lot of different teaching that can go on with that. It can be a pretty simple install. And we don't run a ton of different pressures, but we run just enough, we feel, to kind of keep guys guessing a little bit. All right. And I'm a big pre-snap disguise and post-snap movement guy. I want to look like we are in the same front, same coverage. When that 17-year-old kid walks up there and takes a look at it, And we feel like that allows us to hold the pen last, right? Whoever holds the pen last wins in football, right? As far as clinic talk goes, hey, we want the 17-year-old kid who's running the RPO, who's, getting them into the right play and so on and so forth. We want that kid to have to beat us on Friday. Hey, not the Hall of Fame dude, guru on the sideline who knows the offense like the back of his hand. And, we don't want him to win the game on Monday and Thursday to where it's automatic for the quarterback. Hey, they're bell corners, you're running this, or, whatever it might be. We want the 17-year-old kid to beat us. So that's just one little thing there. Okay. No, I'm getting kind of wordy for my own liking here. So I want to kind of leave with this, just some practices that we do. Linebackers, we always like to put agile bags behind their heels whenever possible, try to eliminate that false step, just something that our kids know and do. And our linebackers go and drag the agile pads out. You got to make sure you steal them from the D-line, right? We do, just like everybody else, we do formation and cans, but for inside run, one thing you can do is use those agiles as your D-line, as your anchor points that you guys are fitting off of. Show your linebackers how those offensive linemen, those cans are going to block those D linemen. Okay, so in power, show them the guard tackle double team there and where those bubbles are going to appear. Okay, so you don't have to use your D lineman at all for that. You can minimize the amount of guys you're using just in your indie period. Okay, that gives you an opportunity to be able to coach those guys up. All right, and safeties, I mentioned this. Use them in inside run. Your defensive back coach has plenty of stuff he can do with his corners, right? Use your safeties and inside run. What are they doing? Their practice reps have to mimic what they're going to see in the game. We do a lot of half line with the linebackers and tight ends, with the linebackers versus a tight end and a fullback, working that base out, working the down block, power toss, outside zone, and making the fit correct with that linebacker. Okay. And one thing, all players, when they're not in a drill, we try to make them take their read steps from behind the action. Would they do it if you just told them to? No. Okay, hold them accountable. I stand at the, we want to call it the front of the drill where I can see everybody behind, right? And I make those linebackers take their step, okay? Make those safeties take their steps, shuffle for cutback, so on and so forth. You can film it and put it on film and show guys that they're goofing off or whatever. Well, they're losing opportunities to get better. And so that's the way to hold them accountable, all right? And I run through these just some take-home points, guys. And again, if you want this slide, email me or get in touch with me on Twitter. I'll put that up at the end here. Okay. But just a couple of things that, if you're going to take one thing away from spending time watching this, to make your team or your program better, it can be just one thing, right? But the top there that I started with, have some defined, visible, and celebrated points that your team, your defense takes pride in. A vision and mission statement. I know it sounds cliche, right? But our kids see it. It's communicated. It's part of our culture, right? Same thing with those ABCs, things they need to know to be successful by position, okay? Regardless of if you're a quarters team or not, guys, right? Quarters, again, the safeties allow it to be fluid. Linebackers get to play defense like a running back, fly around. And number two is a big deal as far as communication, alignment, and assignment. Okay, run past conflict. There's ways you can set your front and get your guys to minimize that conflict and knock the ball out to where you want it to go. Right, finding ways for kids to learn, right, and then have some change ups to protect what you do. So that's pretty much what I got there, guys. Throw this up here, just some resources. A while ago, well before I had kids, I started a little website called NoCeilingsFootball.com. Have not written on there in a long time since my kids were born and getting involved in different things and whatnot. But I do have on there this, it's not a gimmick or whatever it is, 100% free. Just you throw in your email and it shoots you a PDF of a little ebook I wrote, 10 reasons to base out a press cover for. A lot of the stuff that we just talked about just now, but some more words and some diagrams and different things, and just a little resource I put together. So if you're interested, head over there and you can get that for you and your staff, and just a little something for you. But Twitter, I'm pretty active on @Coach Twitch. Maybe I don't tweet a ton, but I check it. I see messages, all that good stuff. If you've got a message, guys, everything that I just talked about, I learned from somebody else, right? I didn't, a lot of it is, putting things together. That's part of the art form of coaching. But I didn't invent any of the stuff that I just talked about. It comes from meeting with people. It comes from going to spring practice and watching film and picking the brains of people that are smarter than me. We're really good Steelers in football. So my email's right there too. It's my school email. And, I just want to thank Coach Bandstra for having me on here, and, hope that everybody's doing okay. We're sitting here in quarantine essentially right now, but wishing you guys all the best and to your teams, and good luck in 2020.